Our next speaker is Clancy Green, and Clancy is from Oklahoma Conservation Commission. Clancy's presentation today will be on online training sessions. We found that training was much better delivered during the pandemic, and the ability for people to get to their computer and be able to do that from home, attending training sessions. So Clancy, we're really happy to have you with us today and speak about Oklahoma's experience on online training sessions for district employees. So Clancy, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Ray. So I'm probably going to touch on a few things that Nikki has already commented on, but we'll go ahead and include them anyway. Let me see if I can get the screen to advance. Come on. It's not going to cooperate today, I don't think. Of course, I would be the one that would have technical difficulties.
Clancy, it'll be fine. Go ahead and wiggle that mouse around a little bit. Maybe tap on the screen with your mouse. See if that does it for you. There you go.
There we go. All right. Okay, so of course, like all of us, we have that internal struggle of, everybody wants training and guidance resources, but they have to be convenient, timely, within budget, and also worthwhile to the audience and the learner. So we're always looking to best answer that question, but it doesn't always work out. But of course, when the pandemic changed, we were forced to change our approach. Our previous approach would have been that we would try to put together a very robust 2-day or 3-day in-person training for all of our employees, very budget heavy and logistically a nightmare. But of course, pandemic meant we couldn't do that at all. So we had to change our approach. Like Mike said, we were forced into it. We all are a little resistant to change, but we were finally forced into it. We kind of had to become kind of our own geek squad as we learned how to go digital with all of our online trainings and resources. So how we actually ended up doing that. It's not very often that we say that our state IT comes to the rescue for us, or even that Microsoft comes to the rescue for us, but in this case they did. Office 365 was rolled out to all of our conservation districts. They are not actually on our state system, so they're considered contractors for us. So previously they had never been on the same applications that we had. And so having that 365 platform available meant that we were all finally using the same things. We could use instant messaging, which should not be a big deal, but it is a big deal because now we've got that one-on-one interaction. We focused our training efforts around 3 applications initially, plus our agency website. So Outlook, Teams, and Stream. And then we are also starting to dabble a little bit with SharePoint as a 4th resource, which I know has a lot of capabilities and robustness to it, but we just don't have quite the background in it. So that is one of those things we are still learning as we go along. So how the pieces all fit together, we used Outlook and the website to generate the meeting invitations so that they would have easy links to locate for those folks to join in. A simple 1-click and they can join the meeting. They don't have to worry about passcodes or room numbers, anything like that. And then of course on the website, we would have our calendar reminders so that even if they weren't where they could necessarily look at their Outlook calendar, it was still available on the agency website for them to find and be like, oh yes, that's when that training is, by looking at the agency calendar. Of course, Teams was the main keystone here. It was our hosting platform. Despite all of its hiccups and technological glitches, sometimes that was what we went with because, again, it was part of that O365 that all of the districts were on. It provided us storage for our session recordings and resources. So we would set up a separate set of files for each session that we had or each topic. And then an employee could just go to that set of files and find the recordings and all of those resources. It also allowed us to track attendance during those sessions so that we could keep track of who was actually at those trainings. And then of course it gave us that instant messaging capability that previously we would have had to only had available to us with phone calls or something like that. But now it's just quick as just a, hey there, dot's green on the system. I can just send them a quick message and ask a question. The stream portion of Microsoft, I was not really that familiar with it, but it enabled us to actually create an employee video channel that was set up just for those employees and all of those recordings from our sessions that we had. And so those were all available, again, just one click through the channel. They could go through and find whatever session they wanted to and watch it however many times they wanted to at their leisure. And then, of course, we also have a training resources section that we put on the agency website that's kind of a one-stop shop for all of our PowerPoint resources, our training forms, any tips and tricks that we put out there, that even if for some reason they can't get into 365, they can still get that as long as they have a web connection. They can just go to the agency website and see those PowerPoints and things like that. And then, of course, SharePoint that we are starting to dabble in will hopefully be an additional organization point for those training resources. So how we set up our training flow, we found that if we tended to use the same setup every single time, it made it easier. It let them know what to expect. So we would, of course, select our topic. We'd have one topic a month. We would actually do 2 sessions on the same topic. And then we would send out an invite to all of our employees. And that invite would include the information of, the what time, the when, what the topic would be. And then, of course, the days of the trainings, we would have our training sessions. We kept it to no more than an hour. Sometimes it was less than that. Occasionally we hit the hour and had to follow up afterwards, but we found that 60 minutes was kind of the max for what we could get out of folks with all of their busy schedules. So we would give a short topic on the presentation. And then, of course, we had to make sure that we had time for those questions and discussions to provide that interaction aspect of that training. And then the follow-up of that, of course, was to add our recordings to the channel, post our training resources and files to the team and website, and SharePoint is needed so that those would all be available for the employees to use as they needed them or needed to recall those. So what did we learn? We did not require our districts to have video on during these sessions. We have connectivity issues in Oklahoma, just like Colorado does. So a lot of them struggle to even sometimes join with just audio. As Nikki said, the mute button headphones are your friend because tech can be difficult and the world is noisy. Again, use the same basic approach month to month, kind of develop that routine so everyone knows what to expect. Those regular sessions are important. We chose to do them monthly, but I think you could do them quarterly or what have you, just so that people kind of come to expect and think, oh yes, I get to have training this month, or I get to have training this quarter. We also found that it's worthwhile to invite others that have valuable topics to speak on. Not everybody wants to listen to me as the talking head every single time. And it also allows us to kind of expand our reach of what trainings we can provide. I know we did a session with an employee assistance program that was really well received from the employee's point of view, that we were able to provide that we wouldn't have maybe otherwise. Make sure that you ask for input from your audience on the topics they're interested in learning in. A lot of times we thought we knew what they wanted, but if we asked, we were like, oh, that hadn't even crossed our mind that was something that they might want to learn about. And then, of course, make sure that those resources are made available as soon as possible after the trainings. Life is busy. Another lesson we learned, of course, schedule those sessions well in advance. So we would have a monthly training session. At the end of that session, we would say, okay, here's when the next session is going to be. Look for the calendar invites in your email within the next week so that they know, and that flow just continues. Everybody gets into the routine of, oh yes, I finished training. I'll be getting another calendar invite. I'll accept that. And then I just go through the process again. Most vital of all, I think, is to allow time in those sessions for discussions in that question and answer period. You lose a lot when you're not in person. And so allowing people to have that kind of interaction, even through Zoom, is still really vital. And then we also struggled with how to increase buy-in for the trainings. So we chose to require attendance for some of those if the topic directly impacted job performance or job duties. That was kind of a sticking point with some things, but we felt like it was not asking too much necessarily. So in our current situation right now, our online trainings are actually on hiatus, although we do intend that we will continue to use those. But Thankfully, we have been able to build in some capacity in our district services division. So we're doing some shuffling of staff and bringing on some new folks. So as we regroup and redefine some of our goals, we'll need to look at how we're going to continue our online trainings. And so as we move forward, we're still going to continue to do online trainings, but we'll also try to do some of those face-to-face sessions and meetings because again, there's no substitute for that personal interaction. We would like to look into the development and implementation of an LMS system or other structure that would provide us some hands-on implementation of concepts and that we're sharing, and it would also allow us to track continued education units or new knowledge, skills, and abilities that staff can go through the learning system for and put into place in their jobs. And then, of course, the kind of pie in the sky for us right now is a creation of an online learning series for our district directors that would be much like what the employees do, but also addressing what the district directors need to know as well. And so that is it. If anybody has any questions, I will be happy to answer those.